Hey everybody, Larry here, and welcome to another installment of the Retro Entertainment Archive. Thank you very much for joining me. Here we are. This time around we're going to be talking about Hammer Films and why Hammer Films, why I believe though that Hammer Films has such a lasting appeal though through many decades since its original Gothic horror run in the late 50s and early 60s. And I am personally a fan of Hammer films, and I'm sure there's plenty of you out there, though, who are fans of those films as well. And also just film buffs in general really enjoy these films. I want to try to pin down the reasons why, or at least I think the reasons why anyhow. But what I wanted to do first, however, yeah, I've got some notes here, so I'm going to be referring to these every once in a while, so please bear with me, okay? Now, Hammer Film Productions was founded in 1934 in England by William Hines and James Carreras, who was the father of producer and writer Michael Carreras, who was responsible for a number of Hammer Films famous ones during that time. And of course, Bray Studios, which is located in Berkshire, is best known for its association with Hammer, and became the studio's principal base from 1951 until 1966. And the thing is about with Hammer is that they're known mostly for reinvigorating and re-energizing the horror genre in film, and they're mainly known for its beginnings, especially with The Curse of Frankenstein, which was produced and distributed in 1957, which was directed by Terence Fisher. Now, the thing is, however, is that there were several films, but a couple of years earlier, though, that experimented with elements of horror and science fiction. Thing is that there were at least 3 films that came out earlier. One of them most famously is called The Quatermass Experiment in 1955, which was directed by Val Guest, and that was based on a BBC TV serial. And it starred an American actor named Brian Donlevy. He played the title role of Dr. Bernard Quatermass. Then there was another film which followed the Quatermass Experiment in 1956. It was called X the Unknown. It was another sci-fi adventure with elements of horror in it. And then in 1957 there was the sequel to the Quatermass Experiment, which was Quatermass 2, which was also directed by Val Guest. And those, you could say, were the forerunners of what came about a couple of years later, beginning with the Curse of Frankenstein, and then carried on with Dracula, or known in America as Horror of Dracula, and then also The Mummy, and so on and so on. Now, the bulk of Hammer's Gothic horror output during its most successful period, that was its films were directed by Terence Fisher, of course. He directed a lot of the most famous films. And while other films were directed by Freddie Francis, John Gilling, Roy Ward Baker, and Don Sharp. And By the way, Terence Fisher's most classic Gothic horror films, of course, were The Curse of Frankenstein, Dracula, and The Mummy. And they were the most popular. And they basically started off Hammer's successful run of horror classics, known the world over, and particularly in England and in North America, especially in America, where they had a ready and willing audience already clamoring, though, for a revival of the horror genre. Now, other production people involved with Hammer Films. There's also Jimmy Sangster was the main writer for the majority of Hammer's Gothic Thrillers, and also given writing credits for a number of films was producer Anthony Hines, sometimes under the name of John Elder. And also Anthony Hines was one of the main producers for many of the Hammer films as well during the period in the 50s and 60s. Also, the iconic and very atmospheric musical scores, though, for many of the films were composed by James Bernard, and many of the two most famous, of course, was, again, The Curse of Frankenstein and Dracula. But I particularly like the score by James Bernard in Dracula. I think it's very atmospheric and very provoking of that Gothic feeling and the Gothic atmosphere. Now, of course, Hammer was known, though, for producing its films with very limited budgets, sometimes very restricted. It was amazing, though, how they were able to put together all those films, though, with such tight budgets. But the main people who were responsible for creating the lavish look and atmosphere, especially of the early Hammer horror films, was production designer Bernard Robinson, and the cinematographer for a lot of the most famous films, Jack Asher. They were responsible for that look. And their contributions to Hammer films cannot be sung enough. They were able to pull out miracles, basically, from almost nothing. I mean, they were, especially Bernard Robinson, with his redesigning of the sets and whatnot, and just making it look as if, I mean, a lot of film buffs, though, may point out, though, oh, well, this set looks like this, or these designs look like this, or from one film to the next, but he mainly was responsible for a lot of the set design and, you know, making sure there was a lot of attention to detail. And I think, though, that his contributions cannot be understated. I think, though, that he was amazing, though, in what he could do, especially at Bray Studios, though, where they produced and directed the main bulk of their films. And of course, we can't forget, though, the two main actors, though, most associated with Hammer Films, and those two men, fine actors, wonderful, wonderful people. Of course, none other than Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, who, of course, were the stars of the three main films that started off the Hammer horror cycle, and they were in a number of other Hammer films as well. But those three, Curse of Frankenstein, Dracula, and The Mummy, that's what started their teaming, I guess you could say, and their collaboration. And, you know, just seeing them in those films, though, just it gave their roles life. It gave them a dynamism, though, that made those films just that extra special, though, to look at and to see and to become involved in. And you just, whenever you see them on screen, you just know you're going to be in for a good time. And also, just to point out as well that during Hammer Studios, Hammer Film Productions' most successful period during the late 50s and into the early 60s, they enjoyed major and successful distribution partnerships with all of the major Hollywood studios during that time. And it can't be understated enough, though, that without those partnerships in America, especially with all the Hollywood studios, the success of Hammer wouldn't have been as big. But thanks to those partnerships, they were able to gain a lot of popularity as well as a lot of money through the distribution, and people in North America especially would enjoy Hammer films, and also, though, their legacy would carry on into many decades to come. And they were very much responsible, though, for Hammer's distribution. And yeah, many of them, like Universal, Paramount, Warner Brothers, that sort of thing, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, they were responsible for American distribution for sure. Now, with all that backstory and the history being said, what I believe, though, is Hammer Films' greatest contribution to the horror genre itself is that they were able to revitalize the horror genre, which was quite lacking, though, after the 40s and into the 50s. It was just, I mean, it's an unfair comparison, though, to compare Hammer Films with especially the 30s and 40s output of Universal Films and Warner Brothers Films and whatnot, because it came from a different time period and it came from a different perspective, of course. With Hammer Films, though, they it was a lot more vivid, especially in color. They put in a lot more action, a lot more suspense, a lot more chills, which, of course, were not as certainly not as found, though, in the Universal films, especially during the 30s and 40s, like Dracula and Frankenstein and whatnot. Universal pictures, especially during that time, though, they had their own flavor. They had their own unique kind of perspective with horror. But with Hammer Films, of course, though, this it became much more vivid, much more colorful, of course, and it became more popular, though, due, of course, to the fact, though, that the main bulk of the Gothic Thrillers, of course, were in color, so that certainly helped with their popularity. Also, I think, though, with the main films as well, it can't be emphasized enough that the contributions of Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee made Hammer Films known throughout the world, especially in North America and Europe. And their acting in those films was just superb. They just really did amazing work, especially with the characters that they portrayed. I mean, especially with Christopher Lee. I mean, he portrayed all of the monstrous characters, and Peter Cushing, of course, when he was in the Frankenstein films, especially Curse of Frankenstein, he played the role of the villain in those, of course. But he played the hero in Dracula and in The Mummy and in other films as well. And I think, though, those two actors' contributions to Hammer Films also, I think, led to the appeal, I think, even today, of those types of films. And it can't be emphasized enough. I think they really contributed a lot to that, a lot to the popularity of them. Now, I just want to show you some of the DVDs, the physical media DVDs and Blu-rays that I have of those most popular films, of course. Now, here is the DVD for the Curse of Frankenstein. This came from a set that I had years ago. I don't have the box that it came in, but here's that DVD, and here's the Horror of Dracula, the U.S. title for that film from Hammer. Isn't it a great evocative cover there? And in one of the posters, though, I think, yeah, it's pretty evocative, pretty colorful kind of a poster cover there. And here is another evocative cover here, another DVD for The Mummy, and this is pretty colorful too. There we are. And here are some Blu-rays. First one, of course, the Curse of Frankenstein. And this particular Blu-ray, I recommend this highly, from Warner Archive. This is a great Blu-ray. It has a lot of special features. I can't recommend this enough. This is the perfect version of this film, and the picture quality and the sound is so good. I can't recommend this enough. If you can get a copy of this, please do. It'll be well worth your time and effort, and it is just a great package here for this. And also, of course, from the Warner Archive collection, here is the once again, the Horror of Dracula. And this is also, unfortunately, this one here doesn't have a lot of special features. In fact, I don't think it has any, but if there might be, and I don't know, please correct me if that's the case. This is another excellent Blu-ray, and I can't recommend this enough. This is also excellent. And also, this particular collection here, of course, this collection has the Blu-ray of The Mummy, and it also has other classic Hammer films as well. And this I can't recommend enough. If you can get a copy, please do. This is excellent as well. And that is it for now in terms of speaking about Hammer Films and its enduring appeal to so many horror fans, classic horror fans, and film fans in general. So that is it for now, and until next time, please join me again for another installment of the Retro Entertainment Archive. Until I see you again, take care, everybody, and so long for now.